Welcome to Lake TV's Community Spotlight Show, brought to you by the great folks at COMC, Central Ozarks Medical Center, where your health is their mission. We've got a new guest for you every week. Special guest this week is Bryan McKenzie. He's an old friend of mine. We actually called a football game together, a Camdenton Lakers playoff game here a couple months ago. That was fun.
That was a lot of fun. I appreciate you letting me do that. It was the rookie coming in. You kind of guided me along the whole time. It was a lot of fun.
I was nervous because we got an ex-NFL player, big, strong linebacker dude. So I brought in like step stools to stand on so I wouldn't look like a midget. I felt pretty good. You know, I was taller than you.
You were taller than me.
Yeah,
you were about
absolutely.
6'4", I think. Yeah.
That was fun. That was a fun game to do. So was that the first time you've done something like that?
Yeah, first time I'd ever done anything like that.
Yeah.
I've been interviewed a lot, those kind of things, but never done, color for a game, which was a lot
really
of fun.
fun.
It was
absolutely.
fun. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
So you were a pretty darn good football player in your own right. You actually went to the NFL for a short time. We'll get to that. But so where did you grow up? Where did you play football in high school and stuff?
Yeah, I grew up in a little town in Kentucky called Russell, Kentucky, or tri-state area, Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio, all come together, close to Huntington, West Virginia. Most people know that. And I lived across the street. Our family moved to the area from a gentleman who was part of our church, and he kind of looked at me, kind of sized me up, and as I grew a little bit, got into third grade, he asked me to play football, and I was the first person in the history of our family ever to play football.
Really?
And I was about as tall as I was wide, and he said, okay, you're an offensive tackle. So that's where I started when I was in third grade in Russell, Kentucky, playing Little League, and played 3 years what they call Pee-wee, and then we had junior football, which was 6, 7, 8. We didn't have junior high, but we had 4 different teams that played, and I kept a lot of kids playing, and then played high school at Russell High School, which we had a tremendous tradition. Had won a state championship, been to the state finals a few times, semifinals, those kind of things. So growing up, I looked up, they were the Russell Red Devils, and so wanted to be a Russell Red Devil. So became a Russell Red Devil and had a lot of fun playing high school football under a legendary coach who's in the Hall of Fame now.
Wow. And then where'd you go to college?
I started off at the University of Kentucky, out of high school at the University of Kentucky, was there a year and a half, had an injury in my red shirt. I guess it'd be my second year, but between the second and third games, and came back from the injury about 4 or 5 weeks later, and was hoping to get back in there and be playing, and because I played in the first couple of games, and that didn't happen for lots of reasons. But I was also an immature, 19-year-old. Thinking I was getting a raw deal and that kind of thing, and
I cannot relate to that at all.
No,
right,
and so I played for a great coach, Jerry Claiborne at University of Kentucky. He's in the NCAA Hall of Fame and College Football Hall of Fame, great man, and but then decided that I wanted to go someplace else. So at that time, if you transfer Division I, you set out a year.
Yeah.
You transfer from SEC to SEC like conference, you set out 2 years.
Wow.
None of this, hey, we just keep changing every semester like they do now.
Open portal
it was now. So I didn't want to have to set out. I wanted to play. I loved playing. So I went to Georgetown College, which is a small NAIA school there, really close to Lexington. My brother was in the school there, had some friends there, and it was close, so I ended up going there, and that's where I finished my college career, was at Georgetown College.
When you went from there, and you had a stint in the NFL. I mean, that's like the highest of the high for football players, right? And with Atlanta, with the Falcons?
With Atlanta Falcons, yeah. I was a rookie free agent with Atlanta Falcons. And they say, well, how did they find you? I said, well, even then they found you anywhere. Well, now it's a lot easier because of the internet and all those kind of things. But even then, there's lots of small college guys. There's lots of small college guys in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And they just find you. My biggest asset, I could really run. And that helped playing outside linebacker, and so I signed this in April there of 1991 with the Atlanta Falcons, and was there about 15 weeks, and then that's when I had my shoulder injury that ended, my football career with the Atlanta Falcons. My good friend Sean Hill, who also lives here at the Lake, he played 15 years in the NFL.
Right, yeah.
I played 15 weeks. There's a little bit of difference, and he and I do a lot of stuff together. So usually when he's talking about that, and I said, well, yeah, I played 15 weeks
in the
NFL.
Yeah,
so
we
it's
both put in 15.
That's exactly right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's cool, though, that you had that experience.
Great experience.
And for what you do now, because I believe you're the regional director of football for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, CFCA. So to be able to go into anywhere and say, I actually spent some time in the NFL, that probably carries some weight to it.
I hope. I don't know if it does or not. It probably does. I mean, people understand, especially because I deal mostly with coaches and some athletes as well. They understand you understand the game. They understand that you understand what they're working through and what they're going through to prepare, either an athlete or a coach. There's a camaraderie there immediately, and if you've played at the highest level, yes, there is, especially in our world today. There's it gives you a leg up on other people.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a big thing, man. So what does a regional director of football for the FCA do? What is your job?
Well, I'm the first one ever.
Okay.
So
You're kind of making it up as you go.
That's exactly right. So I started in the summer of 2016 and have learned on the way. So really what FCA as a whole does, and what I do specifically with football coaches and athletes, is we're really engaging, equipping, and empowering coaches and athletes with the gospel of Jesus Christ so that they can engage, equip, and empower those that they influence.
Right.
You know, coaches are the most influential people in most people's life. If you ask somebody, hey, name the top 5 people when it comes to influence in your life, and if they played any sport, even if you had a good or bad situation with their parent, that coach will probably be 1 or 2.
Interesting.
And just the influence.
Yeah.
Billy Graham said years ago that one coach will impact more people in a year than most people do in a lifetime.
Wow.
And I think when really people think about that, they do. Today in our society, sadly, authority has been for young people is not looked at as positive. They don't look at the police force and have respect. They don't look at people in government and have respect. But I tell you, when the coach says something, the kid still does it. If you've ever played, and I think kids still understand, coach says.
Yeah.
Those are powerful words, and they'll follow. So we want to use that influence of a coach, not just for temporal things, but for eternal things in the lives of our athletes. I specifically work with football coaches and to help them, train them, engage, equip, and empower them to be able to do that with the athletes that they have influence with.
Isn't that fascinating? Okay, so we're talking with Bryan McKenzie, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Regional Director of Football. We'll have more with Bryan right after this. If it's happening at the lake, it's happening on Lake TV. From the polar plunge to festivals, parades, aquapalooza, and boat shows, Lake TV has it all. Even the granddaddy of them all, the shootouts. If you're looking for places to party, things to do, or even a new home to move into, you've gotta love Lake TV. At COMC, your health is our mission. Central Ozarks Medical Center is growing in our community with a new dental location to serve you in Eldon and a new location in Laurie. COMC also makes your children a priority with a mobile dental unit serving schools in rural areas where access can be a challenge. COMC also offers OBGYN, sports medicine, pediatric, and behavioral health care. Get more info on how COMC can help you at centralozarks.org. COMC, where your health is our mission. If you love the lake, you gotta love Lake TV. Welcome back to Lake TV's Community Spotlight Show, brought to you by the great folks at COMC, Central Ozarks Medical Center. We're talking with Bryan McKenzie, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Regional Football Director. And you guys deal a lot with coaches and have huddles in schools, student-led huddles and stuff like that. And one thing a lot of people don't know is FCA folks like yourself, you're not paid by the FCA. They don't send you a check, right? It's kind of your own ministry. So you kind of raise your own ministry funds.
Yeah, they send us a check, but all the funds go to our sports center in Kansas City. But we raise all the funds for our entire budget. Every staff person with FCA, field staff, we're like missionaries.
Yeah.
So if our budget's this, we raise every penny of it. with the help of our board and other key volunteers to be able to raise that, to be able to do the ministry that God's called us to do. But it's all thankfully funneled through our support center, which does all these things that we can't do, dealing with insurance, dealing with taxes, dealing with all the things that we're, a 401(c), so we're a nonprofit. There's lots of things that are complicated that Phil Stat don't have to deal with. They deal with it.
Thank goodness for that, right?
They make sure we get our check. They make sure that we're doing things the right way. So thank you for that.
So one of the biggest holidays in America every year is Easter. I think we've got, Christmas, Thanksgiving. Easter's right up there. And so here comes Easter. It's right around the corner. Fellowship of Christian Athletes and your ministry. So what is Easter all about? What is the purpose of Easter?
The purpose of Easter is to celebrate the resurrection of the Lord Jesus Christ. Because without that, then, as Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15, which is all about the resurrection and the importance of the resurrection, without the resurrection, Christianity isn't Christianity. It means nothing. It says if the Lord is not raised, then our faith is in vain. We're still in our sins. Our preaching is in vain. Our life's in vain. Because Jesus came, he said he was God. He said he was God in the flesh, and he said he would rise again. And if after the cross he didn't rise again like he said he would, then it all means nothing. The cross is just a guy that was a martyr, but Jesus wasn't a martyr. He was the perfect substitute for our sins so that we could be made right with God. So Easter is everything. I mean, the cross is important, Good Friday is important, but if you don't have Sunday, then the cross means nothing.
So really everything in Christianity rides on this.
Yes.
He either rose from the dead or he didn't.
Exactly right.
And I think you were quoting Paul before, and Paul said, hey, if this isn't true, we're all screwed.
That's right, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Basically, in the vernacular. I don't think that's really the way he said it.
Yeah, well, in his vernacular, it may be exactly how he did say it. Paul had some colorful language in his vernacular, too, yes.
So Easter, and I think some Christians call it Resurrection Day, it's all about whether or not Jesus came back from the dead or not, whether he rose from the grave or not.
Yeah, exactly right.
Wow.
And that is the bottom line. If he didn't, then our faith is in vain.
Yeah,
our faith is worthless. It's meaningless.
So what kind of proof is there that he did rise from the dead?
It's interesting. There's lots of books have been read. Lee Strobel wrote a couple of books about the resurrection. There's been numerous books, but he was a investigative reporter.
Yeah. And
he was going to prove the resurrection was wrong. He was not a believer. He wasn't a follower of Christ, and he went out and began to interview people. You read the book, and Case for Christ is what it's called, and he begins to interview people about this, and Christians and non-Christians, and trying to find out, did he really raise from the dead? And what he concluded was the resurrection is the most historically documented fact in the history of the world.
Wow.
And it changed his life because he thought, well, I'm going to disprove the whole thing. Well, if you go and you read and you study, you begin to find out that something happened, and his body wasn't there, and they had all these theories about what could have happened, but none of them stack up at the fact, well, you know what? It seems like he really rose again. And all the witnesses and the evidence that they have today, if anything else happened, they had that many eyewitnesses to something, they would never question if it was true.
Yeah.
But there's more eyewitnesses to what happened with Jesus, him rising again, than most people have in any kind of major event. And yet people question it.
Yeah.
And the reason they question it is because, first of all, they don't want to believe that there's a God, because if there's a God, then he's a creator. And if there's a creator, then we're responsible. We answer to him. And they just don't want that. They don't want the authority of God in their life. I think that's why people reject that, even though it has more evidence. It's kind of like the Bible. Yeah. The Bible has more evidence that what we have in our hands today, the Old and New Testament, is the most accurately historic book, literature in the history of the world as well.
Yeah, and it keeps being verified, it seems like.
Over and over again.
They found those Dead Sea Scrolls, and everything seemed to verify what had been written in the Old Testament. It was pretty fascinating. Okay, so we're running out of time here, but real quickly, you have your ministry. It's like being a missionary. How do folks get more information on you or find out what you're doing?
Yeah, they can reach me, just send me an email at bmckenzie, BMCKENZIE @fca.org.
Okay.
So bmckenzie FCA. If they just want to reach out to me and find out more about what we're doing, I'd love to reach back out and connect with them.
Fantastic. Bryan McKenzie from the FCA. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your coming by and joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you so much for joining us for Lake TV's Community Spotlight Show.